Did you bring your question list?
No, I think I'm going to go freestyle.
We're freestyle?
We're freestyle.
I'm already scared. Very cool.
So, it's almost a year since I've met you.
Yeah, probably.
And you definitely had some interesting experiences. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're an immigrant, right?
Yeah.
How was that? Like coming into a space like, because I'm an immigrant myself.
Yeah. You know, honestly, I think I had it on easy mode compared to other immigrants, right? Because I came from Germany.
Oh, okay.
And I
didn't know that.
Yeah.
AI came from Germany.
No, I came from.
Oh,
No, maybe two, but different.
Oh, yeah,
topic. But I came from Germany, right? And then I figured the easiest way for me would be to find a U.S. company that has a subsidiary in Germany, and then internally kind of like just go to a different branch, right? And that's what I did.
Is that what you did? You started in Germany?
Yeah, correct. In Frankfurt, it was an American consulting company. And then I thought, the easiest thing is because the job stays the same, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to look for one. And then they were doing the visa processing, and I just had to, I was basically, relying on my school English when I came. And then it was consulting, right? So at that point, it was in 2000 when the before the dot-com boom, right? My brain was definitely working overtime because I constantly was translating back between English, German, English.
How was that? How was your English coming to America? Were you already proficient? Or
I did in English, English for 4 years in school or something.
Okay.
Right, but...
You wasn't like, you didn't go to America, you're like, hi.
Initially I remember I couldn't understand anyone from Texas. I just couldn't.
Oh, I think some Americans can't understand the people from Texas.
It's like,
The South.
No,
I love the South, by the way.
Yeah. No, I think by now it's also, better, but it was crazy. And then, you don't want to be impolite, right? You just say, oh, yeah, you nod, right? And it's like...
You're like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, who's this German guy?
Yeah. But everyone is super friendly, right? Especially Silicon Valley.
So you went from Frankfurt to Texas?
From Frankfurt to San Mateo, but I worked with a few Texas people from Texas.
So coming from Germany, and then you're like, why do they speak so strange?
Yes, because in Germany, you get taught British English, right? And so it was quite an adjustment because certain things are a little different, right? Also, and now when I fly, let's say through London, I have actually, I need an adjustment period to go back to the British English pronunciation because sometimes, when they come from the boonies, I can't understand them either.
I get it. In your early days from coming to America, what was your first dosage of American culture that you remember?
Oh, interesting. Well, it was coming from Germany, the culture was a different driving style.
Yeah.
Right, there's no unlimited sections on 101.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so the speed was in general slower. And then also everyone said, it's a litigious society, right? So
it's unlimited unless you get caught.
Yes. Over the years, I found out, right? There are certain places where they hide. And then, But initially it was don't get into an accident, right? Everyone's driving slower. So my brain was basically operating on 10% capacity because I'm used to just faster driving.
Go.
And then with also only 2 lanes and no speed restrictions, right? You have to really pay attention. So that was the first thing. And then, like I said, don't get into an accident because they'll basically sue the crap out of you.
California is such a sue culture state.
And that was kind of the thing that was burnt into my brain. I remember that.
Okay. Besides the driving culture, what was your first taste of real American culture? The music scene, arts, the bars, I know Germany is famous for Oktoberfest. I'm sure the drinking ages are different, right?
Yes. Yeah. Drinking age is 16 for non-distilled spirits.
Okay.
And so, beer and wine as a 16-year-old is no problem. If you have your parents with you, it's 14.
Oh, shit.
So you can really roll into a bar when you're 14 and have a beer with your parents.
Yeah, in America, you sneak your kids some drinks and you have parents side-eye.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, child abuse, what are they doing?
Yeah.
They were like...
And then you were interestingly, in Germany, they would call you out for child abuse if you keep your kids out for too late.
Oh.
So I remember,
totally
I show up here at 11, right? And people were, not drinking, but they were, with their parents somewhere out, and I thought that's kind of late for an 11-year-old, right? They should be basically sleeping.
Yeah.
So in Germany, they would rather get on your case for that rather than serving a beer to a 14-year-old.
Oh, well, that's totally different.
Very different. Very different.
Different. So, man, do you like American sports?
I like soccer, Formula One. Certain sports I have a hard time just comprehending, like baseball. Baseball is like, oh my God, is this slow, right? And I've been to several baseball games.
Baseball is one of the slowest games.
Yeah.
Like, over the years, I used to like it as a kid, but the older I get, I don't think I have the patience for it anymore.
Yeah. So you would actually be sitting there watching the game, looking at the stats.
Stats, yeah. Like, when I was a kid, like, I didn't have much to do. Kind of grew up a little on the little poor side.
Sure.
But we had like TBS, and TBS was owned by Ted Turner, which he owns, I think, part of the Atlanta Braves, or if not, he owned the Braves. So I became an Atlanta Braves fan because they were on TV every day. It's what I knew. I knew the team, had a little video game system on Nintendo, and I made my whole lineup based on like the 90s Braves team.
Oh, interesting.
So that's how I got into baseball. Playing baseball is totally different. It's crazy. Like, it's probably the hardest game to play.
Interesting. Because of the skills required to hit the ball, or the...
Yeah, the speed of the ball. I'm not sure if you ever been in a batter's box.
I have not, no.
Seeing a 80 to... Anything over 80 could get scary. And like a curveball.
Yeah. The ball is hard, right? So.
The ball is hard. So like, especially a curveball. So it's like, you think it's coming towards you, but then it breaks the very last second.
Yeah.
And then from the time from the pitch arrives to the plate, it's like milliseconds. So it's like you're processing this, you're like...
Yeah, it's almost more reflex, right?
It's reflex, but man, when you make contact and you hit a good hit, it's like, no, I think it's a great feeling. So, and then defense, like, could get, if you play like in the infield, when a line drive is coming your way, it's like, you better catch it or you better block it, or...
Yeah.
Because if it hits you, it's going to hurt. I think baseball is definitely one of the hardest games. I know soccer is really popular in Europe. Now I think it's getting a lot more traction in the U.S. over the recent years.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, also in this region, right? I mean, with so many immigrants who love soccer, right?
Yeah.
It's probably easier than the Midwest.
Yeah, there's a lot of soccer fields popping up.
Yeah. I mean, but I was honestly, I have two boys, right? So I thought, okay, you should offer all sports, and then they'll pick the one they like.
Yeah.
And I was secretly crossing my finger that it wouldn't be baseball. Because, Because if you just basically just stand around, right, like in the beginning, because they almost hit no ball.
So like coming from Germany and like obviously learning the language and the culture, like, how was your early dating years? Like, did you have like...
I actually relocated with my girlfriend who happened to work at the same company.
Oh.
And then eventually that split up after, I think, 5 years or something. And she went back to Germany. And
so you came here with a German girl?
Yeah, correct.
Oh, okay.
And it was the thing, right? What are the odds that... So I met her in college, and then she and I applied to the same company, and then we both got hired.
Oh, wow. That's rare.
Yeah, that is rare, right? Yeah, so eventually we broke up, or she broke up, I should say. It was somewhat mutual. She broke up with me, and then, I don't know.
So fresh out of the breakup into the dating scene.
Yeah, correct.
And was it hard for you to acclimate? Obviously, something happened because you have two boys.
We're back to the pullout. The pullout did not work. Eventually I met, Monica, but until then, I remember like it was mostly expats that I was hanging out with, like lots of Germans and other Europeans. And that was kind of like the dating scene. But I also think I had not a lot of game, to be honest. and then like finding, now if you go on the internet, right? You can kind of like see, oh, this isn't, not that you should basically completely change who you are, but these are things that do not help you, right? These are attractive behaviors.
This is way before internet dating, right?
Yeah. And
so where would you go to try to meet a woman?
So one cool event was called Euro Circle. And it was basically run by a German dude, and he had just had a good network of expats. And then it's almost like, when you go to like a members club these days.
Yeah.
Right. So it was a similar feeling, just a little more family, because they didn't ask for like $2-3 grand a year. It was essentially you just showed up, you bought a ticket, right? He charged like $10 or something.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah. And then yeah, you knew the organizer, and then the others, like the same group of people kept on showing up. So that was definitely one good. And then of course Cat Club in San Francisco.
Oh, well,
remember Cat Club?
I don't. Tell me a little bit.
Basically played 80s music like every night.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of like this, like sweaty. It looked like, I remember it was kind of like this sweaty kind of like build, inside, because everyone was dancing their ass off, and they were just like, it was like this, almost like in a locker room. It
sounded like poor ventilation.
Yeah. It was kind of like sketchy, but they're still around, right?
Yeah, in those, I used to go to like underground raves, and like you would get the address the day of.
Yeah. This is an actual venue.
Oh yeah, and it was just like, but I remember it was all like sweaty, and you like go home like with the weirdest funk.
Yeah. And then they were playing mashups. Remember mashups?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was their thing right before, I guess, sampling got really good.
Yeah, before Serato took over the game.
Yeah. And then it was just interesting because it was like 80s stuff, sometimes blended with modern stuff, sometimes just with other 80s songs. And, like they did a really good job just finding these wacky combinations that actually work when you just play them at the same time, right?
Yeah. So how old were you? Were you when you immigrated?
28.
Oh, okay. Like so you're pretty much like your adult life.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Nice. So San Mateo. So did you ever live in San Francisco?
Yes, I lived... Basically, I worked in San Mateo, lived in Palo Alto, and then eventually when we broke up, I figured, hey, I should be more in the dating scene in San Francisco. I moved to San Francisco to the Mission.
Is that where you met Monica?
Yeah. It was one of these things, right? I almost didn't want to go to the barbecue because I didn't know anyone there. In hindsight, of course, that's the best part.
Was it like intimidating to meet like an American girl versus one of the girls from the expat?
Interestingly, if you would have asked me at the time, will you ever marry an American girl? I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
Like, there's no chance, right? They're this and that. And of course it's bullshit because I did marry an American girl, but it was, no, she has to be European, blah, blah, blah. And then, if you meet the right girl, it frankly doesn't matter. Right?
And it happened.
Yeah, and then it happened. And so
yeah, were you like, you're like, yes, I got an American girl, or were you just like, oh, what am I getting into?
No, I mean, I really value, a good personality and a caring personality. So, so it almost...
It doesn't matter.
No, exactly. It was like superficial what I explained to myself, but then in the end, it's like,
at the end, because you're like, oh, your original thoughts where you're like, oh, I'm never going to marry an American. Yeah, that's what happened. Like with me, because I was like, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to get married. Then I got married. And then it was just like, and then now we're unmarried.
Yeah, that happens too. Yeah, yeah. Statistically, there's a very high chance it will happen.
So, like, I guess I should.
But you probably still cherish the time you had, right?
Of course, that was a wonderful growing period. Still friends.
Yeah, and that's I think the important thing, right? You just realize that the relationship changes, but not like over.
Yeah. It's just a different dynamic. I think dynamic might be the right word.
Yeah.
Still love her as a friend.
Yeah. I'm still fixing her car.
Yeah. I know. When after we broke up, she ordered like all this furniture, but it needed to be built.
And you were the IKEA man?
I was the IKEA man, and anyone that buys furniture that needs to be built, pay a $40
a guy to show up
and put it together. Or if you don't have like a nice ex.
Yeah. Actually, like that was interesting. Like the Monica, she treats IKEA like Legos, and she loves just building IKEA.
Okay.
I think she would actually pay $40 just to build an IKEA set because she just likes it, right? So I never had that problem.
Wow, lucky you.
Yeah. And it was more like, she wanted to build it, and like I love building stuff, so I basically stepped out because I knew she loved it so much.
Oh, wow.
And then it was just bringing the right tools, right? Because the tools they give you are really shitty, right? So
yeah. Well, what hobbies do you have?
Um, I like adventure, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So anything unreasonable that is adventurous, I'm
Unreasonable.
yeah,
What
unreasonable.
does that mean? Like mountaineering?
Yeah, I mean, for example, one fun thing was I rode my motorcycle through Colombia, right? And most people would think riding a motorcycle in Colombia is just a bad idea, right? I mean,
yeah,
drug
because of
cartel.
with the history
Yeah,
or
correct. And then
the stigma
yeah,
of like, yeah,
and the State Department would tell you, right? Like it's not advised to go.
big red flag.
Yeah, correct. And I did this in Colombia, right, for like 7 days, and it was fantastic. The people were super friendly, and basically the trick is you don't go to Medellin, but you go to basically the countryside. So I rode up and down the Andes.
So they didn't try to put you to work in the mountains.
Oh, you know what? I gained a whole new respect for like coffee. Like they're basically mountain goats, and they have this gigantic bag on their back, and then the thing is with coffee is that they don't ripen all at the same time. So it's not like, oh, an apple tree, you just shake it and the apples are roughly all.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so they explained to me when they get trained at the beginning, the berries have like a reddish color.
Okay.
And so they paint one of their fingernails with that same color. So they have basically a visual reference when they pick like what the berry color is supposed to be, right?
Oh, wow.
And of course, over the years, right, they just know it by heart. But yeah, every bean that you have in your coffee, like if you buy roasted coffee, has been hand picked. There's no there's no machine that shakes it or anything. No,
to this day, there's no machine.
Yep, gives you a new appreciation for a cup of coffee.
Wow.
Yeah. And they have these, I think it was like 25 or 50 pounds that they have on their back because the coffee grows on really steep hills.
I heard something. The new trend is what acai is. It's basically handpicked by some indigenous people in like Brazil or something like that. So
yeah,
all your half that bougie people, you better respect.
Yeah, it's just like with quinoa, right? Quinoa like was an ancient grain, and like now the bougie people eat quinoa, right? And like
it appreciates like what we have because like there's someone out there picking each bean for pennies.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And then obviously there's big corporations that made a $7 cup of coffee cool.
Yeah.
So
$7.50 by now.
$7.50.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it all has to start somewhere, and it's like people forget the process, and that's kind of like with technology today. It's like with AI. I think it's like people forget how to think for themselves now.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people may be getting reliant on technology, and do you think people are losing skills?
I totally think that's the case. Yeah, I mean, like if when I grew up, right, we didn't also have much money, and my dad was the classic German engineer, right? He could fix anything, build anything, and so with my two brothers, right, we every Saturday it was like project time, right, and sometimes Sunday too, right. And in Germany, the noise restrictions are a little stricter, so you could on Sunday not start like any bigger project that involve like, power tools.
Is that for like so people could sleep or go?
Yeah.
I've never been to Germany, so I don't
know.
So
the Sunday, like a lot of stores are actually closed. Pretty much the only thing that's open is like the gas station. So the gas station sometimes looked like a supermarket.
Oh, wow.
Because,
is it designed for families?
Yeah, correct. On Sunday, you're really supposed to take a break, right?
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, unless you work in a hospital, right? The hospital is open, right? But
I wish the U.S. would implement something like that.
But then, if you want to meet someone, there's a high chance on Sunday they are not working, right? Like, and so,
Are bars open on Sundays?
Bars are open, yeah. Bars, restaurants, yeah. But like, any kind of retail is most likely closed unless it's a gas station.
Oh, okay. So it's really for resting and community.
Yeah. And I think it's also like has a religious background, right? Like when Sunday is the day of the day for God, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And so he was really good in just like figuring stuff out. And then at that time there was no YouTube, right? So he, somehow knew just a lot of stuff. And so he taught us how to fix cars, weld things, electronics, right? And so I tried with my kids to instill the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And initially I made a mistake of thinking, oh, I like it, hence they must like it because they're my blood.
Yeah.
Which of course is nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Because they all come with their own, they come with their own personality.
Exactly. They're their own person.
Yeah, correct. And then by now, of course, I know, hey, this is nonsense, but you should really just offer it and see if they take it. But
I think everyone needs to do something like that once. Like when I got my first car, I changed the oil, busted my knuckles up.
Yeah.
Probably spent more on materials because I didn't own the tools to change the oil.
Oh, yeah.
But it was such a learning experience that I'd rather pay someone to do it. But at least I've had the knowledge.
Yeah.
If I had to change my oil, at least I had the concept and the scars.
Oh, yeah.
To do it.
Yeah. And then you don't feel helpless.
And you don't feel helpless. Yeah. Like, I think we're going to get to a point where, like, people can't even change a light bulb. They're like scared to touch a light bulb. Am I going to get electrocuted?
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm like, you're like 20, 30 something and you're like scared to touch a light bulb?
Yeah. I would totally believe it. I think also if, let's say, there's like any kind of natural disaster.
Yes.
Right?
Like street skills.
Yeah. If somehow the society breaks down even like a little bit, and Grubhub is not delivering anymore, right? And you have to cook something yourself.
Yeah, cook a meal.
Yeah, and it's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, like back in the day, man, fire, cast iron skillets.
Yeah.
Like they're like, how do I clean a cast iron skillet? Like, man, it's like some people don't know how to cook either, and I think that's one of the saddest things. Is like that's a skill everyone should have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the one thing that makes me torn about this, opinion is that if I remember, like my parents also thought that like whatever generation comes after them is kind of like has some problem, right?
Yeah.
But then in the end, like we obviously survived, and we're still doing fine.
The world goes on.
Yeah, correct. It changed, right?
Yeah, it changed.
And so maybe you don't have to know how these things work because you have a robot, right? The robot is folding your laundry, so I mean, you don't have.
But do you think did you ever see that animation Wale or
Oh yeah, in the spaceship, right?
In the spaceship,
sit in the chair, sipping Slurpees, right?
Slurpees, Wally, and then just sipping Slurpees, and then they do like the bone scan. They have no more bone density.
Yeah.
They have
like
to
blobs, right?
Yeah, they have to touch Earth, and they're like, "What's this?"
Yeah.
It's just like I feel like I hope that's not our future. Like we are so reliant on technology. To tell us what to do, how to live our life, that we lose our individualism, we lose our common sense. It's like right now people don't even know how to interact sometimes because they're like, oh, dating app. And then they're like, yes, no.
I know.
And then when it's time to meet them, they're like, hi.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I think what makes it difficult is...
Especially if you're in a field where, like, you're isolated all the time. All you have to do is sit behind a computer. Like,
yeah. Your social skills are just not developed, right? They're not developed or withered, I guess. But yeah, I think the shift that we're seeing right now, humans always build better hammers, right? And now the hammer that we built, like, right with LLMs, is actually getting more intelligent than we are, right? And previously, you always needed a hammer, like, to be held by a human to do something useful, right? The hammer was just a tool. But now, I mean, if you look at like ChatGPT, the new models, they have an IQ of 120.
Yeah, and they said...
average person is 100, right? So you're already they're more capable and they know more areas than a normal human.
And I read somewhere, I heard somewhere that they're better coders than 95 to 99% of the people out there.
Yeah. And then my coding friends, some of them are
they shitting in their pants because they're like, did I just get replaced?
They're basically multiple camps. They're sort of like the ones that are talking shit about AI. They would, oh, this is never going to replace me. Then there's a camp that is sort of embracing it, that says, hey, I can be 4 times more productive as a coder.
Exactly.
I just have to break down the problem into manageable pieces because the AI can poop out entire applications. And then the other camp is sort of, just scared shitless what's going to happen in the future, right?
So
they'd be completely replaced.
Okay, I know AI technology helps people be more efficient.
Yeah.
Because I'm a creative. There's certain things that AI is helping us do. It's making my workflow efficient. But I'm in the creative world, so at the end of the day, it needs a human touch for creativity. But in a technical space, like coding, where
although interestingly, there's some creativity in there too, because they're like shitty solution and non-shitty solution, right? And then the creative ones are often the better ones. But I get it. It's like the imagination is probably less than.
So in an artsy way, code is art, right?
I mean,
or is it just technical?
No, if it's well crafted code and like they've just an elegant way to solve an like a difficult problem. I do think it's art, right? It requires skill to produce that. But the thing is also, if you listen to a good song versus a shitty song, right? It's easier to distinguish what is what in code if it does what it should. Like in the end, unless you read through the code, like as the person using it, you would know if it's good or bad code, right? It doesn't really matter.
So could like OpenAI write bad code?
Yeah, I mean,
if it's program of an IQ of 120,
it can, and sometimes it does stuff like, like it doesn't compile, right? There's like syntactical errors, like it wouldn't run. This is one of these things, right? Like technology is developing exponential, right? And we are programmed to think in a linear fashion.
Yes.
And so, something exponential is for our brain very artificial and hard to grasp, right? And so what you'll see is then that in 3 to 5 years, I mean, most people think, oh yeah, it's just like what we have now, linear, like a little better, right? But if it's exponential, right? I mean, 3 to 5 years, you'll basically have superhuman-like intelligence, right? And then.
But isn't that already happening though? Like,
I mean, they're basically on the path, I guess, to just get for certain computations a lot faster. The one thing that everyone's worried about is that, if you look at encryption algorithms, right? There's the classic example is you go to a website where you see this little SSL symbol, and essentially
like 128-bit.
Correct. Yeah. There's an encryption that's negotiated between your browser and the server that's running it. And right now, it would just take too long for a regular computer to break that.
Yeah.
With quantum computers, you can do this instantly, right?
Isn't that scary that everyone's security now is at the risk of hackers and
correct? And then it's like, listen in on anything, right? The hackers. But the only good news is that with quantum computing, we're not at that point yet. Right? We have several, they call them qubits, right? We have several, I think, orders of magnitude of qubits that we need to be able to process more.
But I think that's like ass backwards, because it's like we built this structure for safety, and now we're getting so ahead that our safety is compromised.
Yeah. But then they have these, they call them quantum safe encryptions, right?
So now the new thing is going to be quantum encryption.
Yeah. And there are companies around that, right? That kind of like help you with the transition, right?
It just sounds like a fucked up form of capitalism. It's like, let's create a system to break what's in place now that's safe.
Yeah.
Everyone just has to rebuy. Like, it sounds greedy.
I mean, to be fair, there's sort of the nefarious side of the world, right? Where you break things. I can get into a bank account. I can go to the biggest Bitcoin wallet and drain it, right?
Yeah.
There's sort of that aspect, but then there's also, if you have that much computing power, I'm sure we could solve problems that are actually really big problems for humanity that just couldn't before.